Welcome to the Counter Narrative Podcast, a show designed to change the way we talk and think about education. By sharing stories of successes and triumphs, we aim to challenge the dominant narrative that often negatively portrays our disenfranchised populations. I'm your host, Charles Williams, an urban educator for more than 15 years, a current school principal in Chicago, an educational consultant, an equity advocate, and the co-host of Inside the Principal's Office. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to the Counter Narrative Podcast. Always excited to have you in this space with me and my guests, listeners, if you are tuning in. Thank you. Thank you for returning time and time again. You are all in for a treat because we have an amazing guest. An individual that I've been fortunate enough to connect with through Inside the Principal's Office. I got to meet her there, and she's doing some phenomenal work. She's the boss, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But Dr. Nelson, good morning. How are you? How are you doing today?
Great morning. It is a great day to be alive. I'm always reminded of that, right? That any day above the ground, especially in 2022, right? It's a great day. But on top of that, the weather is beautiful here on the Gulf Coast, so it's all is well.
Nice. I'm curious. I mean, yesterday we had a beautiful day. It was like in the 70s, then sunny. Today it is like maybe 50 and raining. So, that's weather here. What do you guys, what do you have today?
So it's mid 70s, sunny, no clouds, just a beautiful day.
It's beautiful.
A breeze outside.
There you go. So it's a great way to end your week. Hopefully you have some more of that lined up for this weekend.
Absolutely.
So, Dr. Nelson, I know that I have had the honor and privilege of connecting with you and getting to know you a little better. I look forward to this conversation because I feel like I'm going to learn even more. But for our listeners and or viewers who may not know who you are, can you share a little bit about who you are, your role in education, kind of your journey there? And one of my favorite questions, maybe something about you that not a lot of people know.
Gotcha. So, LaQuanta Nelson, I am in my 18th year as a middle level educator. And so I think I realized probably about 10 years ago that I was officially crazy because this was my space, right? With the hormones on feet, working with kids that one day I'm grown, the same day, an hour later, like I'm crying because I can't figure out if this person is my friend or, did I wear the right color t-shirt today, right? Mm-hmm. So middle school, scholars and educators are my people. We're all crazy. It's a great place to be. I love it, right? So I began my career as a math teacher, teaching 6th and 7th grade math. Absolutely loved it. Thought that I would be doing that for the duration of my career. Then I decided, met this wonderful lady named Cindy Gibson, right? She inspired me to be her, where she worked with teachers, coaching, training, loving on teachers to be their best self. So even then, I saw myself just continuing on to be an educator, and maybe after I hit, 20 years in, then transitioning to that. But I went ahead and got my master's degree, specialist degree rather, in educational leadership, just to go ahead and start growing myself as a leader.
Sure.
Because even first year, I was already tapped to be team lead, right? So that was the case at that time. Third year in, my principal found out that I had a degree in leadership, and he needed an assistant principal, and he was like, "You're it." And I said, "No, I am not. I am not. No, I did not get a degree to be an administrator. My lane is in here teaching. My lane is in here with the babies. Not interested." He said, "Oh yeah." He said, "You're it. You're great. You don't realize it, but you've been leading your entire hall, So anyway, he convinced me that I was supposed to be a leader in the capacity of administrator. The rest is history, right? So I did that, and it was the best time of my life because I was able to, at that point, not only support one classroom of students, I was able to support a whole school of students and a whole school of teachers. And so even though that's been a very long time ago, I still consider myself to be a lead teacher. So on any given day, people ask me what I do for a living. I'm the lead teacher. I'm also the lead learner
Yes.
at this point. I absolutely believe in education. You know, I'm coming from a household where my mom did not graduate high school. It's something that sometimes people don't know about you because um, it's human nature to look and judge, right? We look at people and we assume so much, but so much of what we assume is often incorrect. So, you know, I'm the product of a single mom who lived in poverty, who did not graduate from high school. But what she did recognize was that education would be the way that I wouldn't have to live the way that she was living. So she was adamant that education was important, that I would have one and that I would value it, and that I would finish it. And so I did, and my life has been forever better for it. And so, you know, that's my motivation every day is to help scholars realize that education truly is the key, is the pathway to open up a world that you didn't even know existed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoy that. I also, on any given day, you see me in a classroom because it's very important for me that I still get to do what 20 almost years ago I said I was going to do, which was I teach. Right. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
still going to classroom. Teachers learn best by modeling a lot of times. So I'm often co-teaching and training that way. It helps me to also continue to build rapport with students,
Mm-hmm.
build rapport with parents because they know, oh, this isn't just somebody who is in an office telling people what to do or making random rules for my child. No, this is somebody who truly is committed to helping my child grow in every way possible. So a lot about me, not a lot about me, but I just love what I do, right? I'm a typical educator who, you know, loves what I do on a day-to-day basis, inspiring and educating, empowering those around you.
Well, I appreciate it, and I have to say absolutely that the middle level group is a unique group. I think all but maybe 2 years of my career thus far has been with middle level, and
Oh yeah,
it is right. Like they're squirrely kids, but like
yes,
you love them because it's that unique area, and I think that is the time, right? Our babies are okay. They look like I don't know. Maybe it's just you have to be uniquely situated to because they need us. They need us more than they
absolutely,
realize. And so thank you
absolutely,
for dedicating your time to that group.
yes.
You know, I I find it interesting because one of the things you mentioned is that, you know, you're just spending time, right? I think you said people judge, right? And so I
Hmm.
know when I'm with my students, one, I always love, you know, being in the classroom teaching, and they're like, Mr. Williams, you should have been a teacher. Like, yeah, kind of. I did that before this.
They don't get that. Yes, yes, that's so true.
But you know, one of the things is that, you know, I tell them, I said, you know, look, like I hate excuses, right? I don't want any excuses. I said because I was just like you growing up, and they look at me like, what are you talking about? I said, yeah, right. Like my father wasn't around. In fact, he passed away when I was young, right? I had a single mom. We struggled. My clothes came from secondhand. Like I'm telling them all
Yeah,
these things, and they look at me like you, like, but you look
but
okay. Like you look like you're
there you
doing
go.
okay. I said, well, I am now, but this isn't where we started.
That's
And
right.
so I think this is a perfect segue because, you know, the whole point of this show is we talk about those narratives that exist, right? I think a lot of times, especially in the school systems, like even where you and I both work, right? There are
Hmm.
these negative narratives around who our students are, and because of who they are, who they will always be. And so I'm
Yes.
just curious if you wouldn't mind, kind of as we start talking about that, what are some of your experiences in the reality of that?
So it's all about expectations, right? It's all about expectations. And what happens in chronically low performing schools, schools, marginalized society, you know, areas, high poverty, high, you know, black and brown kids, percentage of black and brown kids, low SES. There is this, even in 2022, this conception that this idea that they're just going to be that way, you know? And so what happens is that said, kids start hearing it, they start feeding into it, they start believing it. Right. So it's critically important the words that we use, the language that we intentionally choose to engage in with the community is so very important. It's so funny. So this is my second turnaround school. I was recruited to come here to do the work that I had done in a previous school in this school, right? It's chronically underperforming It's been well over 10 years that the school has, been high performing or even considered successful here in Mississippi, right? So a C or better. So it's been an F, 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 D, F, 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 D, F, F, right? So even before I physically started my first day on the job, just transitioning to a different part of the state, and I was furniture shopping, right? So we went to go, it was like, I'm just gonna leave my house there. I'm not getting, it was stuff like, I'm not gonna pack up everything. I'm selling stuff and I'm just gonna go buy new stuff, right? So legit furniture shopping. I go in the store, in the furniture store, they judge you, right? We talked about that judging piece, right? So you got the sales folks, they just kind of stand back to see. I walked in, of course, everybody runs, right? Again, we judge people. Everybody runs, oh, hello, how are you? Great, nice to have you. Great day. How can we help you? I told them what I was looking for. As we walked the store and looked at things, he said, so what type of work do? You look like you'd be like a lawyer or something. I said, no, I'm in education, right? That's what I always say. I'm in education. Oh, really? So like, what do you do? Always. I'm the lead learner. I'm the lead teacher. Language, right? That's my choice of words. So, oh, that's awesome. So are you working for this district? I said, no, I'm going to this particular district, right? He looks at me. Almost, say the folks say, clutch your pearls. It was almost this. His next words were, but you seem like such a nice lady. So, me being the person that I am, I immediately, well, what do you mean? There's some amazing things happening there. There are some more amazing things that are going to happen there very soon. I said, look out for it, right? So kids hear that, they know that people outside of this community view them as less than.
Absolutely.
So again, what happens over time is because we view ourselves as that we don't put forth the effort. We don't have that belief, and we know there's so much work and research around efficacy, self-efficacy. What do you really believe about yourself and your ability, right, to perform a task, to be successful? And so much of the work that we have to do in communities like ours is with the mindset, right? We first got to start there. Yes, you can. Yes, you will. No excuses. You are just as capable or more capable than anyone else, right? Because I will tell folks, growing up the way that I did, I had to get really creative, really resourceful, right, with what I had.
Yeah.
And that's a skill set that, everyone doesn't have because they haven't lived and walked in those same shoes. And so starting with mindset, what are we saying? Yes, we believe in you. Yes, we have high expectations. No, we're not budging, mama. I know they may have made F's for 5 years straight and past, but they will not this year. They are going to put forth the effort because they can, because they will, and we're here to support them with that. We're here to support you with that. And so, coming in when you're first trying to transform cultures that have been chronically underperforming, it's tough. You get a lot of kickback. It's well, who are you? Wow, you're too tough. You're too hard. You don't love, right? But the more people see that you are all in, and you have a genuine concern and you have a genuine love because you do believe in them, they start to buy in. And so when parents start to buy in, it goes from, oh, those people at that school are crazy and don't like you, to you better go up there and do what that lady said do, right? So when the conversations at home start to transform from you better go up there and do, behaviors transform in a school, right?
Right.
Where scholars understand that my mama and my principal are on one team, right? So I better get with the program. And so it's just those every day, even a few minutes ago, those minor interactions with parents and the micro conversations with students, that if you're really consistent, really, and you're really truly honest, because people see through the BS, right? So that's the other thing about being in middle school. They see it, they call it out, right? So it's like, you're not telling the truth, right? That's legit what kids will say if they really feel that way. But again, it's just about being genuinely concerned about kids and understanding that our world does not get better if folks like you and I don't protect the potential of kids, right? Education is in a really tough space right now. People are so exhausted. Even educators that I know that are the most amazing people ever in life, when people get tired, uh, stress happens, and people kind of, their all starts to, and lights start to dim. So right now it's just really tough for everybody, but I'm more convinced now than ever that we are the right people, right? At this very appointed time to do this very special work of moving our school forwards, especially schools that have been chronically underperforming, that are high a percentage of black and brown, that are, everybody's free and reduced lunch, right? These are the communities that need more of us than ever before. And so it's just, again, about mindset. So if you're asking me, how do you do it? You put your boots on, you put your helmet on, you pray up, you take good care of yourself so that every day you show up your absolute best self for students. You show up your best self for teachers, right? Because that book, if you don't feed the teachers, they eat the students. That's some real stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Take care of the people that are taking care of the students, and again, just show a genuine love for people. Like, I think that once people really know that you really, at the end of the day, have their best interest at heart, people start to show up for themselves, and that's one of the things that's big for me. In middle school, we want to teach them to advocate for themselves. Like I told, like, they're at an age where we want them to understand you are not going to agree with me. You just aren't. You're a baby, you're a child, you're a young adult. You are not going to love everything that I say. You're not going to love everything that the world has to say. You're not going to even like your mom and your daddy for a long time, right? And I share my story with them. My mama was really tough on me. She was extremely tough. I thought she was like the wickedest. I was like, this lady is evil. She does not want me to be happy, right? Of course, that's the middle school brain, right?
Of course.
But of course, that wasn't the case. She just was adamant that I would be great. And so, like I said, like I told them, you are at a wonderful place in your life. The more you learn right now how to advocate in a way that is respectful, that gets your heart and your mind across, but also respects that of the person that you're with, you're just setting yourself up for, the best future and the best outcomes in whatever situation. But again, just, teaching the scholars that they're capable, showing them that they're capable. Celebrating progress, right? Because this is the other thing. Success does not always happen overnight. So if I got sixth graders sitting in my school who have made 60s their entire time in school, there are some academic deficits that are real. That's not fake. That's not just, you be great and you automatically go from being an F student to an A student in one day. No, we're going to have to put in some work. We're going to have to put in some effort. And so also being intentional in celebrating the academic effort, right? Being intentional in celebrating progress, right? Celebrating the things that we want to see more of. So, the other thing when I got here, discipline was crazy, fights all over the place. And kids like, no, it is not what we are doing. We got to, no learning can really take place in chaos. So we had to take care of that, right? So just having the expectation, having the structure, but also within that structure, teaching kids to color outside the line at the same time, right? It's a fine balance that you do in an underperforming school. But again, the work is great, but it's also the most rewarding, I think, work that any of us can ever do, is to come into lands that other folks consider barren, to come into places where people look at, that's just death, right? This zip code equals death. And that's heavy, right? But that is legit the way society and the world thinks about certain areas, even in your city, right? You can call out a zip code right now. Oh, no, not there. Don't do, So it takes special people to go into these places that, are dark. They are dark. They have some heavy issues, to shed the light and to shine the light in a way that everybody realize, we can do this. We're no different than anybody else. Matter of fact, we might be better than everybody else if we apply ourselves accordingly. So,
I love these responses. We are that district, by the way. At a lot of the job fairs, I'll have people come up to me and say, "Hey, where are you located?" "Well, I'm in Austin." "Thank you." And they turn around and walk away. They're like, "Absolutely. I want no part of what's happening in your neighborhood." And yet there's some amazing things. And so, like you said, it's that expectation. The same thing when I came into my building, it was chaos. It was just we were slated for being shut down. We're not a district school. The district was ready
Yeah.
to close us down because they're like, nothing's happening over there. I said, give me an opportunity, right? And that was the thing. I came in and they're like, who is this crazy guy? He lives all the way over in Indiana. He's coming over here to talk to us, and he has these grand ideas of all, like, we can't do that. That is not who we are. And I said, oh, yes, it is. The thing, you don't see it, right? But I'm
Right.
going to believe it until you believe it, because I know you're going to believe it. I'm going to love on you until you love on you. And those are the things that I came in, and it has transformed that. And you're right. It's those mindsets that people come in, right? Because it's easy to sit outside. It's easy to point fingers and say, well, it's bad over there. Well, yeah, maybe there are some struggles. They need somebody who believes that says, let me help us. Let's redo this thing. But the last thing we need, and I know I kind of talked about this on the show that I was just releasing, was this idea of coddling. Right? We don't need saviors, right? We don't need coddling. No. Oh, it's okay.
Like, no. That's the worst thing we could do.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes. So I'm curious. So right now, I'm sure there are people listening and saying, yeah, it sounds great, right? You guys are maybe these rare leaders. These are the things you believe in, but I'm in a school district. Like you said earlier, I'm tired, right? It's chaos. My wife shares this with me all the time, even in her own school. She's like, babe, it's a mess. I never see the principal. Kids are fighting. Security guards are twerking with teachers. I'm like, what? Let me come in. Like what? Like that is not okay. And so I'm sure there are people listening that are like, yeah, right, that's where I'm at. And so, but it's like, when we have these conversations, right, I want there to be this moment of it can be okay. If we start changing those mindsets, if we start changing those expectations, right? And so I'm curious, if somebody's listening to this show right now and like, Dr. Nelson, like, I hear what you're saying, but it's May, I'm tired, it's this, that. What can I do? What can I do today to try to change some of that around, to either to reignite that in me, to reignite that in my students, just to start to shift that turn? What is something that I can do? What would you say to them?
So the first and foremost, you can't pour from an empty cup. So that's facts, right? So we really, really have to be intentional in taking good care of ourselves. And educators are the worst at that, right? Educators and medical professionals are the worst at taking care of themselves, but they're also the two professions that give the most of themselves to others.
Absolutely.
So if we don't find that sweet balance of refilling ourselves and replugging and re-energizing ourselves, we will find ourselves in the predicament where we see what needs to be done, but we don't have the energy to make it happen. So that's one of the first things I'll say. The last 2.5-ish COVID-ish years, one of the things that I've been intentional with the staff, you've got to find a stopping point. Like, you can't work all night. It does your body, your head, your heart no good to not have a balanced work family life. So I think that it's very important that we do that. Like, what makes you happy? Like, for me, sitting close to water is one of the reasons why I was like, you know what, Gulf Coast doesn't sound that bad. Yeah, let me go down there, right? Finding that one thing or two things that refills your cup. Maybe it's you playing music, or maybe it's you watching your child play, I don't know, what is the stuff that is block, whatever the stuff is, right? That everybody's into right now. So that's first and foremost. Like, even when you're on the plane, they tell you what, you got to put your oxygen mask on first before you can save somebody else. So that's, I think, first and foremost. And then recognizing that regardless of what's going on around you, you can be the change. You can. Is that easy? Heck no. I would be lying to you if I said, oh yeah, no, it's not. It's extremely tough, right? You want to get on the floor and kick and holler and scream sometimes. But at the end of the day, you wipe your tears, you get up and you do the work. So just knowing that you're enough, that you can be 1 out of 1,000, but you need to know that your impact can alter the other 999, right? It's the whole coffee bean, egg deal, carrot.
Yeah.
That's truly what it is. And I'll never forget my first time going into a turnaround school. I had a superintendent who had done a lot of turnaround work all over the United States. And he pulled me aside. He said, look, I don't know you. It's something about you. I just feel like I need to tell you, you were brought here to change the system. Don't let the system change you. There are so many days that I hear his voice, reminding me of that. And that's something that I encourage people with even now. You are here to change things. Don't let this system change you into the ills of the system. And it's so easy, it's that cycle of school failure that, folks like Hustle University talk about. That's real stuff, right? You got people to come in. I'm excited. I want to help. And then the system beats you up. So you're tired and it's like, oh, forget it. So then you become a part of the same thing that you came to change. But just be reminded that one person can make a difference. There's a quote that says, that's the only way changes ever happen, right? It always starts with one person. So modeling what we expect, and please believe people are watching what you do a lot more than what you say. So if you're saying it's going to be a great day out of your mouth, but you're walking around, with your shoulders down and you look defeated and you're whining and complaining at the same time, it does no good. No good, right? So we've just got to be intentional with our words, with our body language. And is that a lot on one person? Yes, it is. But you got to remind yourself every day, this is dash work. This is dash work, right? So we all have that appointed date that we were born, and we've got that appointed date that we expire, right? We leave this earth. That space in between, what are you doing with it? Yeah. And I think 99.9999% of us get into education for purpose, right? It's not for money. It's truly to make an impact. And so just every morning reminding yourself that, hey, I'm on a purpose-driven mission today. I'm doing dash work. And sometimes it's not, we would love for light bulbs to go off all day, every day in a classroom, or we would love for, the disgruntled parent that's been disgruntled for 50 years today to come to school and bring donuts and tell everybody, oh, it doesn't always happen that way. It's the look in the eyes that you see a child like, oh, this person does love me, and those are the small things that you see, that you celebrate, that gives you the energy, the fuel to go harder. And over time, right? The water, the river cuts through the rock, a little bit at a time, right? It doesn't happen. Water cuts through rock, it turns into a river over time. It doesn't just out of the blue happen. It's over time, little by little, but with consistency, right? The perseverance. That's how it happens. And so it's the same thing. And in education, we want to plant a seed one day and see the fruit the same day. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. We've got to plant it, and then we've got to water it. We've got to love on it. We've got to give it the sunshine. We even got to talk to it. Folks that are real farmers and planters, we talk like, no, it's okay. It's okay. So that's just a process that we have to go through, and we're greater for the journey, right? I'm a better person professionally and personally because of the work that I've been able to do in turnaround schools. So.
I think that analogy that you used at the end is great. And I've shared that with my teachers because I said, we're not here for us, right? We're here for the students that we do, because how often do we get angry that somebody else gets to pick the fruit of the seed that we planted? Right. And it's like, we get like, no, we want to do that. Like, we want to see that. And it's like, it's okay. And once we separate ourselves from that, like, I did my part. My part was not to harvest the fruit. My part was to plant that seed. That was my job. And once I realized that, then I could be a really amazing seed planter. Like, and so I just want to say thank you, because I think there's a lot. This is just one of those conversations that need to be had as we're doing this work. We're gauging ourselves compared to everybody else. We're on social media. We're like, oh, but this person's doing this and that. Like, go be you. Like, you are enough. You said that earlier. Like, you are enough. You are uniquely situated to do the work that you're doing. Embrace that. Grow comfortable in that, so that way you can do that amazing work, because the students in your class need you. So then that way you can, like we talked about before, then we start changing those mindsets. Then we start changing the narratives. And that district of death, right? All of a sudden people are like, oh, did you hear about what they're doing over there? Did you? Like, yeah, because now we're getting confident, because I don't know if it was just me in my school, but when you're surrounded by, or when you're in a large district where there are schools that have a budget that's three times yours, right? Or they have, homes that are worth five times as much as the homes. Like, it's really easy to say,
Or
but
10.
they're doing that. Yeah, let
That's
them
right.
do their thing, but let's be amazing in our own way. And we're going to
That's right.
grow into that. And like, they didn't start there. Like, we are
That's right.
going to grow into that as
That's right.
well. And so let's embrace that. So I appreciate the wisdom that you have been dropping this morning with us. So, as we wrap up, because I always I glance up and I'm like, geez, this time just flies on by. Earlier I mentioned, and I just want to give a little space for this. Earlier I mentioned you were the boss, and people are like, what is that about? So I just want to give you an opportunity. I know that is something that you do in addition to, the work that you do as leading a school. So do you want to talk a little bit about that endeavor as well?
So I'll just share, most time when people see boss, they think, we really think about titles, right? We think about leadership being just about the title, but it's not. It's about action, right? Leadership is all about action. So boss stands for bold, optimistic, substantial, and spontaneous. So I really, really believe to be effective at what we are purposed in doing right now in education, especially now in 2022. Like, we've got to take a bold stance. And that doesn't mean we're loud and we're banging people over the head, but we've got to be bold in our beliefs about what our scholars can do. We've got to be bold in our beliefs about what we can do, right, in systems and change. We've got to be bold about advocating for our scholars and for our schools and even for our communities. Because even last night, we had a community event here last night. And it's just beautiful what can happen when a community starts to believe in the school, right? That village action is just a beautiful thing. So bold, the B stands for bold, right? You just got to be bold in what we do and how we do it to get the change, right? Then optimistic. Listen, this is tough stuff. And if we are going to walk into this stuff being negative Nancy's, we've lost before we've started, right? We've got to have the confidence that we can do these things. And it starts with being optimistic. There's, again, so much research around what being positively charged and having a positive mindset can do for your work. What stands out to me is, research from Harvard showed that, you're 31% more productive when you're positive versus negative.
Absolutely.
You're 31% more creative. I need that. I need my 31 extra percent, right? So being optimistic and understanding, I talked about earlier, refilling the glass. Some people think either the glass is half empty or it's half full. I think it's neither. I think it's refillable, right? So taking that approach that things can always get better. They can always be worse, but we can always get better. And then substantial. So I'm a themer, right? I love themes. I love parties. I love all of these wonderful, happy-go-lucky things. But at the end of the day, if I'm not dealing with the heart of teaching and learning, if I'm not dealing with academic deficits, if I'm not building teacher capacity, I don't just want to put lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. We want greatness from the inside out, right? We want the whole package inside and out. And so that's what about substantial is, that are you doing work that matters? Yeah. Not that just happy, not that just feels good, but are you doing the work that really matters? And then spontaneous, right? The brain responds to novelty. Mm-hmm. Again, research is clear. It does. And so sometimes, education can get pretty boring. We can get complacent. We can get monotonous. And so it's very important that if we're going to be effective, our most effective self, our best self, that every now and then we try something new, that we challenge ourselves to think outside of the box, that we ask ourselves, why not? And so that is what Boss Educator is all about, just encouraging and inspiring and empowering those that are within the field and even outside of the field to understand that being your best self requires you to be bold, optimistic, substantial, spontaneous. So that's it.
It's amazing. So, I love the boss, right? And so I'm hoping that you as listeners, as viewers, go out and be a boss, right? Today and,
right.
and moving forward.
Right.
But I'm curious, Dr. If you would just share with us then, for those people who are listening right now or watching that are like, hey, I I want to be a boss like Dr. Nelson. I want to learn more from her. I want to connect. I love this energy. I love the pink, right? I love this. Like, how can they connect with you? How can they follow you? What's the best way to reach out?
Sure. So I am on Facebook as the Boss Educator. There, you can follow me there. I am on Twitter as Dr. L.M. Nelson. There's also the Boss Educator website, so www.bosseducator.com. So that's 3 different spaces where we can connect, and I love connecting with folks because I truly believe we learn with and through others, right? I'm better because I know you and I've experienced you, right? And I think that's the case. The more that we approach people in life that way, that we're all better for it.
Absolutely. And I would love to say that I am better because I've been able to connect with you. And so thank you for that opportunity. So thank you for being on the show, of course, but also just thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for the wisdom that you have shared with us today. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for making me a better educator just from spending, this last 30 minutes with you. So I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you do. And I cannot wait to continue collaborating, networking, and growing together.
Absolutely.